In part 4, we're going to look at examples of irregular verbs and this tense of would. As I mentioned, the vast majority of Spanish verbs behave in a very regular way when it comes to would, where you have the full verb, the infinitive, and you're just getting that ia ending and a ria sound. So very simple to form. However, there are a handful of quite common and important verbs that, again, go their own way. So in this lesson, we're going to look at some of those. If we take the verb salir as our first example, you might, following the rules so far, kind of add like this, saliría, but it isn't. It's actually saldría. So this D is being introduced, and you're going to see that theme repeating, this D, in a lot of other verbs too. So instead of this, well, salir goes to saldría instead of saliría, which I guess is a pronunciation issue. Instead of saliría, saldría is easier to pronounce. So salir goes to saldría, and this means I would go out. How would you say I wouldn't go out with him? No saldría con él. Another one is decir. Again, using our regular rule, we might be tempted to do this. So we have deciría, something like that. Deciría, I guess, right? But it isn't. It actually goes in a very strange way. It's diría. Notice how we don't even have the E. Let's put them side by side here. So we have decir going to diría. This is probably the most irregular of all of them. You can see where we completely lose this E altogether. So we have very little of the infinitive left. And again, I suppose it's to do with pronunciation. But decir, the important thing to remember, it goes to diría. So that would mean I would say diría. How would you express I would say it to him? Se lo diría. Another example of this is with the verb querer, which means to want. Now the standard way is to add this ia, and we would get querería, which is a little bit awkward, to say the least, to pronounce. Querería, especially when talking at speed. So what happens is this E here gets removed, and we end up with querría. It's very important for would with querer that you roll this double R. And there's a very important reason for that. Say if we do, let's go back to the infinitive. So we have querer, or to want. Now, in the line past, I was wanting, we get this ending, quería. You can hear the ria sound, but it's just by chance through the spelling that we get it. Actually, this means I was wanting. It's the imperfect tense. So the only way to distinguish between I was wanting and I would want is by putting in this R here, this extra R. So we have a very important switch or distinction in pronunciation, because one is quería, I was wanting, and the other one is querría, I would want. So when it comes to I would want, make sure that you are not only stressing this I, but that you're also rolling this double R. So we can look at it here. Querer goes to querría. If you don't roll the R, you get quería. which means I was in the past. I was wanting. That's the past. So to be understood as I would want, that only becomes obvious when they hear the sound querría, to roll the R's. And you might say, well, why would I ever say or wish to express I would want anyway? Well, in Spanish, I would want is very much used for I would like. Querría. It's another way of saying I would like. Instead of me gustaría, you could say simply querría. So how would you say I would want to check it first? And this, in a way, to the ears of a native Spanish speaker means I would like to check it first. How would you say that? It's querría checarlo primero. What about I would want to be sure? Querría estar seguro. Or if you're a female, you'd say segura. So querría estar seguro. I would want to be sure, or I would like to be sure. The verb hacer also behaves in an irregular way with would. So it doesn't go to this, hacería. It gets shortened to simply haría, haría. So haría is I would do, or I would make, haría. How would you say I wouldn't do it this way and make the I here explicit? Yo no lo haría así. So you have the yo stressing I wouldn't do it, no lo haría, this way, así. If we look at the verb venir, which means to come, we have the temptation to do this. Veniría, veniría. But it isn't. It's another one that takes this D sound and it becomes vendría, vendría. So I would come, vendría. Here also in saber, it doesn't go to sabería. It gets shortened to simply sabría, sabría. And poder doesn't go to podería. Instead, it takes that D sound like the others and it goes to podría. And actually, this is a handle that we use a lot for I could. Because if we examine it, right, what does the verb poder mean? To what in English? So poder means to be able to be able to. So if we have podría, to be able to is becoming I would be able to, right? Because this ría stands for would. So poder, to be able to. Podría, I would be able to. And we use that a lot in English for I could. You can say I could do it, or equally, you could say I would be able to do it. But the shorter version, and what we hear probably more commonly, is I could. So just bear in mind that that's where that handle is coming from. Podría, you can hear the would sound there in ría. And what it is expressing is I would be able to, which we use in English for I could. That's where the handle comes from, podría. So if I want to say, I could do it for you now if you want, how would you say that? Podría hacerlo para ti ahora si quieres. Looking at the verb tener, this one doesn't go to tenería. It's another one that takes the D sound and goes to tendría, like here, tendría. Now, how would you say I would have to? Tendría que. This is another handle that we can grab from this would tense. Tendría que is I would have to. Let's break it down here. So I have to, tengo que. We also had things like I had to in the past, so you could add tenía que or tuve que if it was a dot, tuve que. Now we have also tendría que, I would have to. Because this ría sound is would, I would have to, tendría que. So how would you say I would have to tell him? Tendría que decirle. So tendría que is working as a handle. We can tag on whatever we like. I would have to do it. Tendría que hacerlo. I would have to call him. Tendría que llamarle. Tendría que is another one that we can add to our handles of must. Finally then, on this slide, I've listed many of the verbs that we've been through in this video, as well as one or two others. So this is kind of your special list that you're going to have to, in a way, memorize on its own, because it's deviating away from the vast majority of other verbs that behave in a regular way with would in Spanish. So just to go quickly down the line, we have diría, habría. This one here, remember we had the auxiliary verb haber. Well, this is going to be very, very important in the future. There's going to be a module on this, habría. This opens up a big door into Spanish for us. So I just listed it now so that you could get some early warning about it. So we have diría, habría, haría, podría, pondría, querría, sabría, saldría, tendría, vendría. You still hear all the way down the line that key sound of ría. But sometimes the verbs will go irregular by putting a D there. So you get this dría sound with the D. Or other times they'll get shortened, like these ones, haría or diría. Right? So this is like a special list that you're going to have to just memorize on its own. And these verbs are very, very common verbs, so you'll find yourself using them a lot anyway. So over time, you'll find that you can forget about the memorization bit, and it's just going to come naturally to you that you pronounce these special verbs in this special way when it comes to using would.